bomb Syria or attack with cruise missiles. And they're talking about this, comparing it to the bombing of Serbia in 1999. And I would point out that there are big differences that people should watch out for. First of all, in 1999, you were dealing with a country, Yugoslavia, that was practically defenseless. In this case, Syria has advanced cruise missiles, advanced air defense systems. In those days, the president of Russia was a drunk, Yeltsin. Today, it's Putin, a very astute and formidable figure. The latest I've heard is that Interfax is reporting that Russia will strengthen its Mediterranean squadron as an answer to Obama sending these 4 destroyers into the eastern Mediterranean. The other big difference is that today, the American people are sick and tired of war. In 1999, that was not yet the case. There was still some interest in foreign adventures. The other thing that Obama should remember is that today you have a Republican Party made up in effect of lunatics who are waiting for their chance to impeach him. The Republicans felt that they did it wrong last time. They tried to impeach Clinton before the bombing of Yugoslavia. If they had waited until after the bombing of Yugoslavia, they would have been able to impeach him. This time they want the war first and the impeachment second. Now, in the middle of all this, look at Obama. Obama is obviously not in favor of bombing Syria. He's been dragging his feet. He's been making excuses. We even hear that the United States has delivered very little of these famous weapons that were supposed to go to the Syrian rebels. Very little has been done in that official regard. I'm sure there are other shipments that are going on.
All right, well, Mr. Kaplan, let me just get Mr. Kaplan back in on this.
Telling the members of Congress that he does not want war.
Okay, Mr. Kaplan, you were shaking your head. Go ahead. You can comment, please.
Mr. Tarpley doesn't have all his facts straight. As far as the Russians go, the Russians don't want to get a dog into this fight. They've already withdrawn their naval base. They've already withdrawn from Latakia. They've taken their forces out of the area. The only thing to the benefit of the Russians was the financial gain they had from selling weapons to the Syrian regime, but they don't want to go up against the United States, and they don't want to go to war. So that's one fallacy he has there. Another one is, yes, President Obama says he doesn't want to get the United States involved in another war. That's not something that's unreasonable. The fact of the matter is we've been fighting in Iraq, we've been fighting in Afghanistan, and the American population is war weary. What we are doing is we're training Jordanian and Syrian special forces, as I said, on the Syrian frontier, and these will be the forces to go on the ground. Now, as far as Russian naval ships go in the Mediterranean, it's irrelevant at this point. We don't even need the U.S. Navy in the Mediterranean. We have air capabilities, cruise missiles. We have plenty of air bases all over the Middle East and Europe that we can put together a no-fly zone. And those 3 depots where Maher al-Assad, Bashir Assad's brother, keeps those chemical weapons that they are using against their own people can be destroyed. And it's a question of whether the United States, and I'm not taking a position either way at this point, but it's a question if the United States will have the resolve to respect human life and put a stop to that.
Okay.
The introduction of poison gas into warfare. This is a bigger story than most people realize.
All right. Well, Mr. Tarpley, let's look at that. What Mr. Kaplan is saying about the introduction of poison gas in warfare. It takes me back to the 1980s when the forces of Saddam Hussein, which were supplied by the United States and others, actually used chemical weapons, poisonous gas, and this was ignored totally as far as the international media and also political circles. However, I'm talking to Mr. Tarpley. However, Mr. Tarpley, all of a sudden now that this happens, once again, I will reiterate, with the international observers on the ground, that suddenly we see the mainstream media and we see political circles beating the wars of drum and waving the flags of human rights. Your take on all this and the role of the media in all of this?
I would first say that the nonchalance of the other speaker is exactly the kind of lightheaded foolishness out of which world wars can occur. The fact that the Israelis feel free to bomb Russian weapons shipments, it seems to me, takes us right to the brink of some kind of cataclysm that I don't want to contemplate right now. The Israelis should back off their attacks on these Russian military assets, and the idea that you can simply blunder into Syria and bomb whatever you want, I think this is an obsolete attitude that has grown out of this idea that war is a one-way street. War is what the U.S. and the Israelis do to somebody else, and the inanimate object does not respond. Well, as von Clausewitz says, it does respond, and that can make it pretty uncomfortable for you. Now, what we have is Fabius of France, Haig of Britain, the Israelis, Davutoglu of Turkey, we've got McCain, we've got neocons, and they're all beating the drums, screaming for war. These Europeans and Israelis are all willing to fight to the last American, right? When you go to a demonstration like the one I've just been to, we have poor black people, we have poor Appalachian people. They're the ones who are going to die in something like this. And again, the American people have one answer to this, and it is no. I urge Obama to maintain his resistance, right? He's conflicted, he better stay conflicted, because if he goes down this road, he will be impeached. The same McCain that is urging him into war right now will turn around and impeach him. I would urge Obama to fire the principal warmongers. That would be Kerry, that would be Susan Rice, that would be Samantha Power, and some others, and listen to the advice of General Dempsey, who is telling him, don't do it. Any bombing will not be decisive militarily, but it will make the United States decisively committed to a conflict like this. Okay. Let the powers in the region, let the Israelis above all, if they're so threatened, let them take care of this.
Well,
they should be on their own.
Mr. Kaplan, how dangerous is this situation now that the United States is threatening to enter the situation? Is it likely to expand and make the overall situation more dangerous?
Well, first of all, I don't believe that my attitude about this borders on nonchalance. Something about Mr. Tarpley is he's a lifelong conspiracy theorist, and he's part of the Lyndon LaRouche campaign. They frequently blame the Jews for everything, and they're always looking for conspiracies. I think he also said that 9/11 wasn't done by Al-Qaeda. It was an
what
inside
a lot
job.
Of baloney.
Let me finish. Let me finish, Mr. Tarpley. The fact of the matter is, that you. Mr. Tarpley, your fantasies don't impress me. What we've got is a situation just like before World War II, where Mr. Tarpley here could be the Neville Chamberlain. In other words, he's the one that's going to sit back and he's saying there's nothing to worry about. These are just the warmongers in the West who are trying to stop a vicious dictator who murders his own people. And the fact of the matter is, this is something that the United States, which feels an obligation for genuine human rights, not talk and not newspeak, to help even the Syrian civilians from being murdered by a dictatorship and a family which has murdered their people there for generations. The fact is, it's not nonchalance. It's history repeating itself. This is the same thing that we had with the Nazis before World War II.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is, people like Mr. Tarpley, you know, he can insult me and accuse me of nonchalance. Believe me, I don't want a war, and I'm not nonchalant about war.
All right, well, let me get Mr. Tarpley back in here. Mr. Tarpley, Mr. Kaplan said that this is similar to World War II. If we look at, though, the FSA and those that the United States and their allies and the Saudis and petrodollars are supporting, they have been, many have witnessed time and time again during this 2.5 years of unbelievable crimes as far as beheadings. We have seen even organs being eaten. And so the United States, are these the supporters of human rights that they're trying to encourage?
Right. I'm not supporting the cannibals. I'm not supporting the rebels who have used chemical weapons, in particular as provocations. These are rebels that fight among themselves. The various leaders kill each other. Those rebels represent, I'm afraid, the collapse of civilization. You're dealing with historical analogies, fine. You have the wrong historical analogy. The correct historical analogy is not 1939. it's 2002, 2003, when we had the pompous neocons, right? The Wolfowitz, the Cheneys, the Bush, the Youngers, and so forth, assuring us that Saddam Hussein was the new Hitler and everything in the world depended on getting rid of this guy who could strike any capital in the world in 45 minutes. That was a fantastic fiction. And what we're dealing with today is an equally fantastic, or more fantastic, fiction about Assad and the chemical weapons. Assad has no need of chemical weapons. He's winning without them. You're constantly citing the 300 Jordanian supermen who have been trained by the Israelis and the US and the Jordanians, and somehow this irresistible spearhead of 300 trained fighters is going to go all the way to Damascus. Is pure nonsense. This is the Figaro story. All of these things have been discredited, and the credibility of this stuff here in the United States is at an all-time low. Any intelligent person does not want to hear about how Assad is now threatening the liberty of the world. But the difference now is that with the presence of Russia on the side of Syria, contrary to what you say, this connection persists, and the presence of Iran, other new powers, a changed military landscape.
All right. Well, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Tarpley, but we are out of time. I appreciate you both. I appreciate both our guests for being with us. We're out of time. Out of Washington, author and historian Mr. Webster Griffin Tarpley, and out of Berkeley, California, investigative journalist Mr. Lee Kaplan. And we appreciate you, viewers, for being with us. Make sure you join us right here, same time, same place for another debate. Tomorrow, I am Między, signing out for myself and all the crew right here in Tehran. Thank you so much, and goodbye.